Crash course on how did the British Empire rule the world. The British Empire was one of the largest and most powerful empires in world history, spanning over a quarter of the globe at its peak. It controlled territories in Asia, Africa, the Americas, and Australia, and its influence can still be seen today in many parts of the world. The British Empire was one of the largest empires in history, spanning over a quarter of the world's landmass at its peak. Many countries that were once part of the British Empire are now independent nations. Here is a list of some of the countries that were part of the British Empire, both past and present. 1. United States of America. The American colonies were one of the first territories acquired by the British Empire, but they gained their independence in 1776 after a long struggle for freedom. 2. Canada. Canada became a British colony in the 18th century and remained part of the British Empire until it gained independence in 1982. 3. Australia. Australia was claimed by the British in the late 18th century and was used as a penal colony for British prisoners. It became a self-governing colony in 1901 and gained independence in 1942. 4. New Zealand. New Zealand was also claimed by the British in the late 18th century and became a British colony in 1840. It gained self-governance in 1852 and independence in 1947. 5. India. India was one of the most important and valuable territories of the British Empire, which lasted for nearly 200 years until India gained independence in 1947. 6. Pakistan and Bangladesh. Pakistan and Bangladesh were also part of India under British rule. They gained independence in 1947 and 1971, respectively. 7. South Africa. South Africa was a British colony from the early 19th century until it gained independence in 1961. 8. Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe was a British colony known as Rhodesia until it gained independence in 1980. 9. Kenya. Kenya was a British colony until it gained independence in 1963. 10. Nigeria. Nigeria was a British colony until it gained independence in 1960. 11. Jamaica. Jamaica was a British colony until it gained independence in 1962. 12. Bahamas. The Bahamas were a British colony until it gained independence in 1973. 13. Belize. Belize was a British colony until it gained independence in 1981. 14. Malta. Malta was a British colony until it gained independence in 1964. 15. Cyprus. Cyprus was a British colony until it gained independence in 1960. 16. Hong Kong. Hong Kong was a British colony until it was returned to China in 1997. 17. Singapore. Singapore was a British colony until it gained independence in 1965. 18. Brunei. Brunei was a British protectorate until it gained independence in 1984. 19. Fiji. Fiji was a British colony until it gained independence in 1970. 20. Guyana. Guyana was a British colony until it gained independence in 1966. These are just some of the countries that were once part of the British Empire, and each one has a unique history and relationship with Britain. Today, many of these countries maintain ties with Britain through the Commonwealth of Nations, a voluntary association of countries that share historical ties to the British Empire. How did the British Empire manage to conquer and rule so much of the world? In this crash course, we will explore the key factors that contributed to the success of British imperialism and some interesting stories that highlight the empire's impact on the world. 1. Superior military power. One of the most important factors in the success of the British Empire was its superior military power. The British had a well-trained and disciplined army, and they were able to defeat other nations in battle through superior tactics and technology. For example, during the Battle of Plassey in 1757, a small British force was able to defeat a much larger Indian army through the use of artillery and disciplined infantry. Another example of the British military superiority was the Anglo-Zulu War in 1879. The British were able to defeat the Zulu warriors, despite being outnumbered, through the use of advanced rifles and artillery. This victory helped to establish British dominance in southern Africa. 2. Economic power. The British Empire was also driven by economic power. Britain had a powerful navy and merchant fleet, which allowed it to control trade routes and establish trading posts around the world. The empire also had access to vast natural resources, such as gold, diamonds, and oil, which were used to fuel Britain's Industrial Revolution. One interesting example of the economic power of the British Empire is the Opium Wars in China. In the 19th century, the British began exporting opium to China, which was illegal under Chinese law. When the Chinese authorities tried to stop the opium trade, the British sent in their navy to protect their interests. The resulting conflicts, known as the Opium Wars, resulted in the British gaining control over Hong Kong and establishing trading rights in several Chinese cities. 3. Cultural influence. The British Empire also had a significant cultural influence on the world. British culture, language, and values were spread through the education system, literature, and media. The British also exported their legal and political systems, which are still used in many former British colonies today. One interesting example of British cultural influence is the spread of cricket. Cricket was introduced to India by the British in the 18th century, and it quickly became a popular sport in the country. Today, cricket is a national obsession in India, and the Indian cricket team is one of the best in the world. 4. Divide and conquer. The British Empire was able to conquer and rule so much of the world by using the strategy of divide and conquer. They would often pit different groups against each other, such as rival tribes or religious groups, in order to weaken their opponents and gain control. One example of divide and conquer is the British rule in India. The British were able to gain control over India by taking advantage of the divisions between different Indian groups. They would often give preferential treatment to one group over another, creating resentment and distrust among the Indian population. 5. Resistance and rebellion. Despite the power of the British Empire, there was also significant resistance and rebellion from the people they ruled. Many colonized people fought back against British rule, using a variety of tactics such as guerrilla warfare, protests, and strikes. One example of resistance is the Indian Rebellion of 1857. The rebellion was sparked by a group of Indian soldiers who refused to use cartridges that were rumored to be greased with animal fat, which was offensive to both Hindus and Muslims. The rebellion quickly spread throughout India, and although it was eventually crushed by the British, it marked a turning point in India's struggle for independence. Another example is the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya, which took place in the 1950s. The Mau Mau were a group of Kenyan rebels who fought against British colonial rule using guerrilla tactics. The uprising was eventually suppressed by the British, but it marked a significant turning point in the struggle for Kenyan independence. In conclusion, the British Empire was able to conquer and rule so much of the world through a combination of military, economic, and cultural power, as well as the use of divide and conquer tactics. However, there was also significant resistance and rebellion from the people they ruled, which contributed to the eventual collapse of the empire. The legacy of the British Empire can still be seen today, both in the countries that were colonized and in the culture and values that were spread around the world. Here is a poem on the British Empire. In days of old, the British rose to build an empire that would impose their will on lands both far and wide, and leave a legacy that would abide. With swords and guns, they claimed their prize, and forced the people to their size. From India's shores to Africa's plains, their power spread, their rule remained. They built great ships to rule the waves, and spread their trade to foreign graves. Their wealth and power grew each day, as they extended their empire's sway. The language, law, and culture they brought, and to their ways, the colonies were taught. They left their mark on every land, and shaped the world with their own hand. Yet with their rule came much distress, as many lives were left in stress. Oppression, violence, and division grew, as the colonized fought to break through. Their empire's end was bound to come, as people rose and freedom won. Their power faded, their rule undone, and a new world order had begun. So now we look back on that time, and remember the legacy left behind. The British Empire, for good or ill, is a story that echoes still. We hope this video has given you a taste of all the incredible experiences Canada has to offer. If you're ready to start planning your own adventure to Canada, please ensure to use our booking.com referral link. https://www.booking.com/index.html $aid=7989335 to book your flights, hotels, car rentals, local attractions, and more. It's an easy and kind way to support this channel and make sure you get the best possible deals on your trip. Thank you. Anhub Metaverse team at Vancouver, Canada, CA.